The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
In the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, we have a right to life, we have a right to defend life.
This legislation is centered on meeting the needs of Idaho families.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
The courts have long held that our ability to transfer title on real property benefits society as a whole.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
I feel like we're back to an unappointed board that gets to decide who is essential and who is non-essential.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
And for me, it's about a couple things. It's about food security, it's about national security, and it's about preserving American exceptionalism.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Okay, it looks like they are at ease for the moment. We'll keep this shot up here and keep tabs on it. January 31st, 2024. Today is the final day of the first month of of January 2024, and we are live. We are paying attention right now to the my hair. What's called bad hair day? We are paying attention to the House floor. Debate has started on House Bill 415, and House Bill 415 would allow teachers with an enhanced concealed carry license to wear firearms on public school campuses. And so this bill was on the reading calendar for the past couple of days. It got bumped a few days ago because of discussion and debate on the fentanyl bill, which passed the House. And then yesterday they cut everything short yesterday as we were anticipating debate on this bill. But it is happening today, and we will pay attention to what's going on there. And if debate restarts on that, we will bring it live to you and listen in and see who's up and forward. This bill will also, earlier before we went live, Representative Garner stood up and asked a question because the bill removes gun-free zone signs from campuses, and so he was wondering if that means if those signs are removed that anybody can just walk onto campus with a firearm. And I believe Representative Hill said that all the other statutes, all the other laws that apply are still enforced with that. It's just we're not going to have advertising that the schools are open for bad guys to come in and do something. So again, we'll pay attention to that. You guys, if you see anything happening, just interrupt and bring it all in. Man, what's going on today? Okay. As you can see here in the corner, we are keeping track. It has been 15 days since the Joint Finance and Appropriation Committee, JFAC, it's been 15 days since they passed the maintenance budget bills that would fund the government, that would keep the lights on, it would keep everybody's salaries going. The JFAC committed to revamping how we pass bills and how we fund the government, and so they passed these bills. There were 10 of them. They are calling them maintenance budgets, and they passed JFAC. They passed on along party lines. It was a 15-3 vote. 15 Republicans, 3 Democrats voting on these maintenance budget bills. And the whole idea behind this, as we discussed all last week, was to bring transparency to the budget system and to be able to show everyone exactly how much everything costs when it comes to maintaining the basic functions of government, and then and get these passed quickly, so that way further down the line in the session they can pass the regular appropriation bills that deal with other line items or requests that are coming in from the agency themselves or from the governor's office and the executive office. So I made it a point last week that you should be contacting Senate leadership, which is Senator Winder, Senator Anthon, and Senator Lee, because these bills passed committee, and all we're waiting for is to bring them before the floor. So we have a graphic we're going to show here because these budgets need to get to the floor. And so we want you to make sure you contact the Speaker of the House, Representative Mike Moyle, and the Pro Tem of the Senate, Senator Winder. These are their phone numbers. We want these budgets being brought to the floor for an up or down vote. There's a lot of discussion happening in the halls and in the back rooms of the State House on whether or not this process is even feasible, but it is feasible because it passed JFAC, and it's a disrespect to the good folks in that committee that worked hard on these budgets, and in the interest of transparency, to disrespect them by not bringing these bills before the full House and before the full Senate for up or down votes. So these are the numbers here. We'll flash this throughout the broadcast, but these are the leaders in both respective parts of the legislature, and we want to make sure that you give them a call and ask them to bring the budgets to the floor. We've got a counter going. It's been 15 days since these budgets passed committee. It's more than enough time for everyone to get on board and see what this is all about, and it's time to get them on the floor and voted upon. So, all right, Let's look at other things that were happening this morning and throughout the week. I don't believe is the House back. House is not back yet. They're still at ease. Okay, so this morning in the House State Affairs Committee, which started the year off with a bang with a ton of interesting bills, a lot of folks coming in to testify during the public hearing section, but Representative Young was back with a bill that sought to solidify the definitions and get everybody on the same page throughout Idaho code. So when it comes to words like sex and gender, making sure that the definitions are clear, that gender, what is the definition of gender, what is the definition of sex. And so there was a lot of discussion today, a lot of folks who were riled up on against this bill, somehow claiming that if these definitions are changed, reworded to be accurately along scientific lines and along biological science lines, that these people would be erased from society, which is an absurd claim because no one's erasing anybody from society, and everybody lives under the laws of the Constitution. So you are protected by the laws of the Constitution, regardless of what you consider yourself. So when it comes to state law, when it comes to making sure that everything is applied equally and everybody understands the definition of a male and the definition of a female and the definition of gender and sex and boy and girl and all that, that's what Representative Young is doing here. And rather than have me stumble through what she's trying to do, I want to share the clip from her closing from today after all the public testimony. she really gets to the heart of the issue here about what it means for this bill and for the good people of Idaho. So let's watch Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Representative Julianne Young. I represent District 30, and I thank you for your time and your consideration of House Bill 421 today. You know, this is a fascinating conversation. And as we listen, part of what I'm hearing is that simply the establishment of a biology-based definition of sex, male and female, is in and of itself discriminatory, that it's hateful, and that it's harmful. I don't accept this premise. We ought to be able to have fact-based discussions around policy in a way that is still civil. We ought to be able to have discussions within the context of language that is clear and understandable and still be respectful. Acknowledging something that is evident is an important part of civil society, and that is what we are seeking to do today. In fact, what I hear is a desire to erase the distinction between male and female. And so I'd like to close, because I do believe that this should not be a partisan issue, although it appears to be, with a statement that I found particularly compelling when I read it in the amicus brief filed by WOLF, the Women's Liberation Front, in the Supreme Court case that was Harris Funeral Homes versus Amy Stevens. So this is a radical leftist feminist organization addressing the question that is before the committee today. They said, legally redefining female as anyone who claims to be female results in the erasure of the female people as a class. If, as a matter of law, anyone can be a woman, then no one is a woman. And sex-based protections in the law have no meaning whatsoever. If we can't define, we also can't protect. And I think that's important to keep in mind. So with that, I would urge your support for further civil discussion with House Bill 421.
Okay, very excellent words there from Representative Young. I mean, you know, using the old school feminist language as to back up her claims here and to back up her bill that if anyone can define themselves as a woman, then no one can be a woman. So this is obviously a very volatile time, but I really think it's only because the folks that are you know, going through their gender dysphoria, or whether they're going through this because they have some sort of other ulterior motives, they're the ones that are just like, you know, really shifting and shaking the societal norms that are going on here. So this really isn't a controversial bill. This is normal. This is easy. This is restructuring and going back to what everybody already knows. So anyway, I think it's beyond, you know, people were asking why aren't folks who support the bill showing up in droves and commenting and giving their opinion on this. And I don't know, part of me thinks that because what's the point? I mean, this is you're going to have rallies in the street that say men are men and women are women. I mean, it's common sense. It's common sense. So this is a common sense bill brought by Representative Young. It helps solidify, it helps clean up all of the garbage language that's been seeping into our society and seeping into the redefining of language that's been going on for years now. And so I commend her for doing that. Debate is back on down in the House floor. This is House Bill 415, which is the bill that would allow teachers with enhanced carry permit to wear firearms on school campuses and remove those ridiculous gun-free zone signs. So let's. This is Representative John Gannon, Democrat, out of Boise. So let's listen to some of his remarks here, and this should be entertaining.
Essentially, we're creating security with very, very, very minimal parameters. And our local school board, elected by the people, has no influence. Essentially, they are in charge, and they're the ones, the trustees are going to be the ones that take the brunt of the criticism if something goes wrong. This bill may well preempt local school board policies already in place. As the body knows, when we pass a state law that occupies a particular field of law, then the local governments are no longer able to enact what they wish to enact. So some of our school districts, I'm informed, already have gun policies, but they have a lot more stringent policies than this bill. One of them I heard about in northern Idaho has 40 hours of training, and the local sheriff is familiar with the people who have the training. So when the local sheriff shows up at a school active shooting incident, they know who it is, who is and who isn't carrying weapons. But in a small community that works. In an urban community, doesn't work. And it doesn't work because our local police and our local schools don't interact as much. We've got 200,000 people in this city. People don't know each other anymore, and it's a real shame. We used to 30 years, 40 years ago, but we don't anymore. And so identifying who the active shooter is and who's the active protector is much, much more of a challenge under those circumstances. So there is a solution, and that is to require more training, to give an incentive to school employees, maybe 4 or 5 school employees, to get more training regarding what an active shooter is, situation is. Get training annually at a minimum, shooting training, so that when they do shoot, they hit what they're aiming for. There should be a physical health requirement and proof, an actual proof that a person is competent. Now, what do we do now? Say for teachers or others who do extra work at school, you pay them a little extra money, like the teacher who becomes a coach. For coaching, they might get an extra $1,500 or something a semester. So maybe that is something we could do. We've got the money. We've got all kinds of surpluses the last couple of years. We've got ARPA money. We've got the money that we could pay a little extra to designated school personnel who are willing to go out and get trained, get highly skilled at dealing with an active duty situation. But we're not
okay, we've been watching Representative John Gannon, Democrat, out there voices his opposition to this bill. It sounds like he's just asking for more training, and maybe he's not necessarily opposed to having firearms on campus, but he's going all over the map, pulling out all of the reasons why we need to infringe on people's safety. I mean, I don't understand this. This is being able to protect yourself and those around you from a maniac is a fundamental right. And when we are stripping those rights, it's egregious. And we're going to check in on some of this debate as we go throughout the show. But there were some other things that were happening this week and this morning that we want to get to. So we will take a quick break and we will come back with that. But we'll keep you posted. All right, be right back.
There's a saying in Idaho, Esto Perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty. For honesty and integrity. We ride together.
All right, welcome back. We have been paying attention to the House floor. They are debating House Bill 415, which is which would allow teachers with an enhanced carry license to carry firearms on campuses to protect themselves and children should something horrible occur. So we will check in back on the House floor throughout the program here. And then also in the corner here, 15 days since the budgets passed committee, and they have yet to be heard on the House or Senate floor. So we want to make sure that you are calling the Senate majority leaders, the Senate leadership, and ask them, hey, let's get these budgets going. It's been 15 days. Tomorrow will be 16. We want to make sure that these budgets are before the floor, before the entire Senate, before the entire House to get voted upon. If there's discussion happening, if there's a reason why these bills are not being brought forward, have the discussion in public. Bring it up. Here are the numbers. Speaker Moyle, Senator Winder, the President pro tem of the Senate. These are their phone numbers. Call them because what's happening is that they're going to say they're getting pressured. They're getting pressured by people in their respective bodies to hold off. Don't bring these forward. We need to keep talking. Well, let's have these discussions in public. Put them to the floor. Bring them to the floor and have the debates like the ones that are going on right now with all the other important issues that happen. Simply holding them hostage and kowtowing to a bunch of folks who are against transparency is because that's obviously what it is. They don't want to be transparent. They don't like the idea that these budgets can just go through and then then there's room to negotiate later for all the other things. Let's fund the government. Let's keep the lights on and move forward. Okay. Earlier this week, Senator Hartog was in the Rev and Tax Committee over in the House presenting a bill that is another school choice style bill, which would offer refundable tax credits to families whose children are attending private school. There's been a debates over the past few years about how we can help parents who are sacrificing to provide the education that best meets their needs for their children and get the state to be involved by helping parents with these choices. And, everybody pays their taxes, but when you're sending your tax dollars to Boise and your kids are not going to public school, then you kind of are being left out. And there's a responsibility. It's in the state constitution that the legislature shall provide for a free education for K through 12. There's a lot of debate on what that actually means, but this bill here, what Hartog is presenting, is tax credits, refundable tax credits to families who can apply for them and for each of their children that are in public schools. So we have a clip of when she was presenting this, so we'll dip into that, listen to that real quick, and be right back.
Members of the committee, pleased to present to you this RS for your consideration today. Many of you know that I'm passionate about education and that I care deeply about every single child in Idaho having the opportunity to receive an excellent education. Today, I continue that effort with our co-sponsors, the good chairman, Representative Monks, Representative Horman, Senators Grow and Senator Ricks, who are here as well. Obviously, the Joint Committee is still running, so I appreciate that you have allowed me to be in front of your committee today. What this legislation does, RS 3015, the Idaho Parental Choice Tax Credit Bill, I know many of you have heard many things. It allows a parent to be eligible for a refundable tax credit of up to $5,000 for their eligible child for eligible education expenses as defined in the legislation, or up to $7,500 if that child is special needs. These expenses could occur in a non-public setting, whether that be a private school, micro school, learning pod, tutoring center, etc. One of the things that we've heard, and one of the things I think is important to note in the legislation, budget busting bills are not the style of myself or our co-sponsors, but spending money to support education for Idaho's children is our style. So this bill is capped at $40 million for the refundable tax credit portion of the legislation. That's the maximum that could be issued by the State Tax Commission. And that's if the tax credits are fully subscribed, and that's for children of any income level. Additionally, in the legislation, there's proposed a $10 million appropriation for advanced grants, and this would be for parents who are eligible for the earned income tax credit. Same criteria for eligible child, eligible education expenses, and also administered on a first-come, first-served basis through the State Tax Commission. Just want to identify that this does not take funds from the public schools budget. We'll be dealing with those in the Joint Committee and on our floor separately. And this amount could only increase if a future legislature came back and would present in front of this committee. We have the cap identified in code, so it's not something the Joint Committee could raise. It's something that would have to go through the legislative process in the future. With that, Mr. Chairman, that's the short version. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions, but happy, if it's the committee's will to introduce, to address many of those, if it would be the committee's will to hear it at a future date. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so there it is. That's the big idea. That's the big idea coming down the pike here, is that if you have children that you're paying out-of-pocket expenses for to go to school, private school, learning pod, whatever it is, you can apply for a tax credit, a refundable tax credit. What does that mean? A refundable tax credit means that if at the end of the year you're filing your taxes and your family, let's say they owe $10,000 and you had one child in private school that where your expenses were $4,000, then your tax bill would be reduced by $4,000 and you don't end up only paying $6,000. Conversely, if you are only need to pay $1,000 at the end of the year for your taxes, and you have a child and you claim a full $5,000, then you will receive that entire amount back to you to cover the expenses that you incurred throughout the year for your child. So this is a direct benefit to the families that have chosen to send their kids to private schools, or that feel that public schools are not for them. And there's no reason to discriminate against children and families who send their kids to alternative schools other than public school. The state spends about $8,000 of its own money, your money, on children in public school. And then there's also the federal side that adds a few more $1,000s to each of those students' costs and how much it costs to send them to school. So the government is paying $8,000, the money that would be refundable, should it be refundable or reduce the tax burden on the families. That money goes. That money does not come out of the education fund. Does not come out of any education budget. It comes out of the general fund, and so that's where we're at. That's the system that has been presented. This was simply an RS hearing, which means that they're just there to print the bill. It did get printed, so it'll return before this committee for a full hearing, along with public comment and more debate. One of the interesting things, though, was Representative Kenny Roten out of District 13. He crossed the line a little bit here during the questioning when there were questions back and forth, and he thought that Representative Hartog should declare a Rule 80 when presenting this bill during an RS print hearing. Now, a Rule 80, for those who don't know, is a House rule that says if basically, and I'm going to paraphrase it because it could encapsulate many other things, but if you are directly or indirectly, could benefit from the passage of certain legislation. And for instance, in this case, if Representative Hartog had children in private school and therefore she would claim the credit, then she would personally benefit from the passage of the bill. If you personally benefit from the passage of any bill, then it's common to declare a Rule 80. And you see it happen on the House floor all the time. It happens in committee as well. But what doesn't happen is when someone else calls out someone else for not declaring a Rule 80, and because you don't know if they were going to or not, and it's just bad form. Representative Chairman Monks of the committee decided to react to that, but I wanted to show this exchange because it's fascinating.
A vote has been asked for. Representative Roten.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hartog, I have a question as well as a comment. And not to impugn, but as a matter of transparency, I think we should also have a Rule of 80 apply so that we understand who might have, kids that are in private schools.
A rule of 80 is applicable to those people who feel so inclined to introduce that. It's not something that we ask other people to declare their rules of 80s on their conflicts and that such. That's just how we do it. If people want, yes, that Rule of 80 applies to you individually. It's not something that we as other members call out other people to do. However, I would, as a response to that, I do have a daughter that is in a pod that would not qualify for this particular credit because she does not have a certified teacher there. They have had in the past, but they don't right now, so mine would not apply to that, would not be available for that. But again, I think the fact that it is available to everybody negates that, whether or not that would, because whether or not you have one in private school right now, you could still send them next year. So it's available to everybody. So that Rule of 80, I think, is applicable to every in this state.
Beautiful smackdown. This is the reason why I'm not in the legislature, because I don't think I could keep calm, keep myself cool and collected like a lot of these folks do. But that could also be a detriment. But we'll get into that some other time. But there you have it. This is the kind of stuff that goes on. But I commend Representative Monks there for standing up and saying, "Hey, look, anybody could declare Rule of 80 if they have kids in public school now, because they might want to take advantage of it next year." So the point was moot, in my opinion. All right, let's head down to the House floor. House Bill 415, the gun bill allowing teachers to carry if they have an enhanced weapons license, enhanced carry license to carry weapons on the floor here. This looks like it's Representative Gerald Raymond. So let's dip in here and listen to what he has to say.
And it's much like the good gentleman from 26 enumerated. Let me just share with you what this body not only has allowed but encourages by way of having our folks conceal carry and seek proper training. Our folks in our school district go through not 14 hours, not 14 days, but 14 weeks of intense training in multiple aspects of handgun retention, on the ground fighting, and multiple other things. When they come out of that program, they're actually qualified as level 1 reserve officers. That's not just allowed by this body, that's encouraged by this body currently. Mr. Speaker, if I could ask the sponsor a question.
Would the sponsor from District 14 yield to a quick question?
Yes. Thank you, good gentleman. And Mr. Speaker, and my question would be this. Is there anything in this bill, and if there is, could you point me to it, that would enhance what we have already encouraged and what is going on in many districts across the state, including my own?
Gentleman 14.
The way this bill is, we put that as a minimum standard.
That does not mean you stop there. If schools want to continue and train, great. I talked to an SRO officer. He said this would be an opportunity if the SRO officer would train with all these people and go train with them. We don't need to get these people to law enforcement level. If they're gonna be there to defend the classroom. If we want to have individuals that are trained at that level to go engage in the hallway, fine. That's just going to be a law enforcement thing. This is like a last stage defender of the Alamo. I'm going to defend this room when they come in this room. That's 90% of what this is. And who's going to go out in the hallway? Like I said, very few individuals. All the training in the world will not make the difference when you have to make that shot. When you have to face the battle and actually really do it for real, police fail. But years of training. So it comes down to, we never want to quit. I think the schools, this is a minimum, train as much as you can. I think that would be great. This grows. If you want to get everyone to that level, great.
Thank you, good gentleman. Mr. Speaker, if I could continue to debate.
Thank you, good gentleman. And the
truly
speaker would caution us to debate and ask question debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just one comment. I truly appreciate the response. It is my sincere hope that it doesn't dilute or compromise what is already happening for good in our local districts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, good gentleman. Further debate on the motion. Gentleman 28. Good lady from 24 didn't jump fast enough.
Mr. Chairman, would the good representative from 14 yield to a question?
Gentleman from 14 yield to a question.
Yes.
Gentleman yield.
Mr. Chairman, this question came to mind with the recent debate I've heard. We've heard that there's already in place in many school districts in the state that their teachers can carry concealed weapons. Has any superintendent or chairman of a board reached out to you and asked you to bring this legislation forward?
No. From 14.
No.
Thank you.
You jump 28. Further debate on the motion. Lady 24.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman from 14 yield to a question?
You gentleman 14 yield to another question.
Yes.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So it was mentioned that we already have a law on the books that allows schools to develop a policy which can include teachers being able to carry. So I'm wondering if this bill passes, can you help me understand how they would intersect? Would a school still be allowed to develop their own policy that maybe requires different training than the concealed carry, where they could have the sheriffs or the NRA come and do specific training for schools?
14.
I agree with that concept 100%. This bill does not require it because that would just crush the ability to get this moving forward. But I would suggest absolutely. If this thing gets going, a principal would go, hey, I want our folks to get training. Is it required? I would ask as a principal, as a leader, I want you guys to get training. It's not required. Do it. And I think that's a great, we don't want to put that limitation on this because we want to get this out there, to get some capability out there. That could take years. So we can get this going right now and don't stop the training. I agree 100%. And that's fine for the principals to follow through with that. Absolutely. And the superintendents.
Lady 24.
Follow up.
Gentleman 14 yields to the second question.
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm trying to understand, would they have to accept a concealed carry, or could they say, we're not accepting that, we require NRA school training, or we require training from our sheriffs?
Down 14.
We have that as a standard. I mean, that would be a whole change in the bill. And I looked at this extensively, trying to have a standardized training, Idaho State Police, all these things were difficult to be standardized and get it across the state. That was really a challenge. And I've looked at this. We get down to this and continue the training. I think this is sufficient. Everyone's concerned. We're not trying to make law enforcement people out of these people. They're not going to be law enforcement. They're just there for a final stand. You got something you can do besides sit there and get shot. It's kind of what it is. So we're not going to go engage these guys. That's not the intent. And let the people who can, there's people that will be in these schools that can, and they'll be in that school. Let those guys go do it. They're going to have some additional capability. Remember what the objective here, just give our kids a chance. when they come through the door, that we don't have to just sit there and do nothing. So I hope everyone understands it is not the intent to make law enforcement out of teachers. They're not. If we do this, it will take years and we'll never get there.
Lady for 24.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Further debate on the bill. Good gentleman, 26.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman from 14 yield to a question?
Gentleman yield. No. Gentleman 14, would you yield to another question, please?
Yes.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman from District 14. I've got a few questions, but I'll go one at a time, obviously, as we like to do. Are there any requirements for annual ongoing training in this bill similar to established policies in Mountain View School District, Bruno Grandview School District, Garden Valley School District?
Gentleman 14.
There is not.
Thank you, gentleman. Gentleman 26.
The gentleman yield to another question.
Gentleman yield for another question.
Yes.
Gentleman yield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good gentleman. Like I mentioned, Garden Valley, Mountain View, Bruno Grandview, where they have these policies in place, there are some reporting requirements in the event that there's a weapon discharge, whether it's intentional or inadvertent. Are there any recording requirements in 415?
Good gentleman from 26. Are we asking questions we know the answer to?
No, I'm looking in here trying to find. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I caution the body to not ask questions we know the answer to. Gentleman 14.
That is just that you look at the concealed weapon requirements. If you fail certain things, you discharge, those concealed weapon requirements and law apply to you. That's misdemeanors for discharges and things like that. It's not in this bill. The concealed weapon permit, maybe constitutional carry, you have that responsibility. Discharges and all that apply under Idaho law. It's not in this bill. This bill is just to direct the ability for these people to step in and defend the schools.
Gentleman 26.
Thank you, good gentleman. And I actually didn't know that, so I appreciate it. Would the gentleman yield to one more question?
Gentleman yield to one more question.
Yes.
Gentleman yield. Good gentleman 26. I'm just cautioning because I'm getting the feeling that some of our good friends know the answers to these questions you're asking. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is there any provision in here that would allow a district to deny or revoke a license from someone who it has been the ability to concealed carry in the classroom?
Gentleman from 14.
Again, that's applicable to law. If you leave a weapon around, if you are drunk and you carry a weapon, that's illegal. It's a misdemeanor. All these things you can't be under some controlled substance and carry. That's illegal. Discharges, all these things, leaving weapons around. In this case, you leave the weapon around, you will be revoked. You have a big responsibility here. Don't leave your weapon laying around. Everyone's responsible here. So this is not just an open-ended case.
Gentleman 26.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, good gentleman.
Further debate on the motion. Lady 34.
Will the gentleman yield to a question?
Gentleman yield to question.
Standing up.
You can always say no to, good gentleman. Gentleman yield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good gentlemen. Some of my school districts have come to me with the question of how they handle notifications from now on. So I didn't see language explicit within the bill. Are there any requirements that I'm overlooking in the draft that would limit, so setting aside the removal of the gun-free zones, the either process or methods that could be used by school districts to inform other individuals about whether they can or cannot be carrying firearms on school property?
Gentleman 14.
I'm not sure I understand that.
Would the good lady
rules
clarify?
apply. I'm not sure what you're asking there, but.
Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen, let's try this another way. Does the bill stop a school district from informing anyone else that comes on campus about their ability to not carry a firearm while on campus if they don't fall under the provisions of this bill?
Good gentleman 14.
So you're saying they cannot carry. They cannot tell anybody that they can't carry. That is confidential. So that piece is clear in the bill. That they cannot tell anybody. It's confidential across the board. Are we going to say they can't carry because something's wrong with them? Is that something that we have to communicate? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Mr. Speaker.
Good lady from 34.
Clarification?
Clarification would be helpful, good lady.
Mr. Speaker and good gentlemen, I'm referring to individuals who are not school employees, who are not the individuals who you are saying would, under this legislation, be allowed to carry under the concealed carry requirements. This is for, let's just say you're a random individual who is coming onto school property for a basketball game. Does the school district still have the ability to make notification that that individual doesn't have the right to have a firearm on school property?
14.
Understood. Okay. What the issue is here, you have to be employee, you have to meet all the criteria, you have to provide all the information that you're carrying. You can't just come on and carry just because you feel. You have to be under all the restrictions that we have here. You have the fingerprint test, you have the background check, you have permission from the principal. That allows you to come on and nothing else. No one else can come cruising on that campus. You're saying with the gun-free zone thing, no, that is not okay. The laws apply still. You cannot come on that campus unless you have that permission from the principal and the superintendent. You have that designation. I think I understood that now.
Lady.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and gentlemen.
Good lady, further debate on the motion. Good lady from 18.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate against the bill.
Lady has the floor to debate against the bill.
Thank you. Felt I needed to give the poor gentleman from 14 a break from the questions. I believe that one can very much be a supporter of the Second Amendment and be against this bill. The Second Amendment does not require that guns must be forced into all places, whether people want them there or not. I know that the vast majority of my constituents certainly don't want guns in their schools. And they
Okay. Representative Ilana Rubel, the minority leader in the House there for the Democrats, is going to stand up and speak, and this could go on for a little while. So we are, I wanted to just catch you up. This bill, as you've been hearing, is before this body. So it looks like it will be voted on today. And that's a good thing because we didn't know what was going on. It was being held up for a while. They adjourned early yesterday and didn't get to this. So we're happy to see that this bill is before the body and being debated as such. There were some interesting exchanges going on there, but I think Representative Hill was handling them pretty well. So we will... we've got about 13 minutes left in the program. I doubt they're going to the debate will end before then. So if you want to follow along and watch it, you can go to the Idaho Public Television website. You can go to the Citizens Alliance Idaho.org website, where you can watch the stream live there as well. It's embedded in our website, so you can easily find it there. One last thing before we take just a quick break here is 15 days. It's been 15 days since JFAC, the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee, passed the maintenance budgets out of their committee. They worked hard. Some people worked hard over the course of the entire year since last session to come up with a way to fund the government, to create transparency, and to do something that Representative and co-chair of JFAC, Wendy Horman, called historic. And it really is. There's been a lot of enthusiasm for the transparent nature of these bills. And if you've been paying attention and watching all last week, we talked a lot about this. We had Fred Birnbaum on from the Idaho Freedom Foundation, where we actually went through some of these budgets, and you can see exactly how these things are being broken up and what they're funding today, what they hope to fund today, and what they will negotiate throughout the rest of the session. You've got agencies asking for their line items to be added to the budget. You got the governor's office and the executive folks asking for their line items to be added to the budget. And then you've got the maintenance budget, which is just keeping the lights on and keeping things cruising along so that the government can be funded and we can keep moving. So those are the bills that are waiting now 15 days to be brought before the Senate and the House to be voted upon. So right now we're focusing on the Senate. We want the Senate to bring these bills forward, to debate them. If there's a problem with them, let's have it out in the open. Let's let the public have it all out in the open. Let's let the public hear full transparency what the issues are and where people stand on these maintenance budgets. So 15 days going along. You see the numbers scrolling down there at the bottom. You can also give a call to Speaker of the House Mike Moyle, Representative Mike Moyle, or the Senator Winder over on the other side of the rotunda, as they like to refer to themselves. But these are the two leaders of each of the legislative bodies, And we need to encourage them to listen to the people and be on the side of transparency and get our budgets in front of the legislature to be debated, to be voted upon, and to just be on the side of transparency. So we need to encourage them because they're getting a lot of heat from folks who are completely against transparency, and they just want these budgets. They don't know, budgets, like, they can be boring. I am certainly not a numbers guy, and you could probably tell I'm not even a words guy. But but at the same time, this is our money. You and I work hard all our lives to make money to provide for our family, and we expect that when the government is taking our money and spending it in all these various departments, that we get to see the books and we get to see these budgets. And this new process, this new transparent process, is a fantastic, historic step forward. So let's light up the phones, man. Light up the phones. Get out there and do it. Be respectful, of course, because we're respectful people, but light up the phones and just say you want transparency. Let's get these bills before that. All right, we are going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll check in what's happening on the House floor in 415 with House Bill 415 right after this.
All Idaho lawmakers swear an oath to support the Idaho and U.S. constitutions. But how's that working out for you? Because not all Idaho lawmakers share the same values. That's where the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge comes in. 10 statements inspired by those two founding documents that are designed to preserve our shared values. Values such as education freedom, safeguarding free speech, defending our protected right to self-defense, and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When a lawmaker signs the pledge, they are performing an act of political courage, accepting the challenge to be a champion for our values, and serving with political integrity. To find out if your lawmaker signed the pledge, visit idahopledge.com. Paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho.
Thank you,
We
Mr.
ride together.
In favor of the bill?
Gentleman has the floor. Debate the bill.
Thank you. Just to remind the body, we had a real similar bill in 2014. It was guns on campus. And the debate would have that there was going to be mayhem, mass murders if we allowed that. That bill passed, and it has been a wonderful bill. Campuses have been protected ever since that time, and we passed that bill. Now, on the other side, I think I would have been a much better student if I would have thought that maybe my teacher was carrying. That would be a little intimidating, but as a joke, of course, but didn't go over very well. That happens in humor. This is a good bill. This will be a deterrent for teachers and give them some power to shoot back just in case something crazy goes on, and this is a crazy world. So thank you.
Thank you, good gentleman. For debate on the motion, gentleman 24.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the good gentleman 14 stand for a question?
Gentleman 14 yields.
Yes.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, sir. So I'm kind of confused now on the discussion of school district training. So my question is, could a school district still require training even of the people who had the enhanced carry? The bill sort of indicates to me that they couldn't, but then when we talk about the existing law and the school district being able to make that available, could the school district then in turn require that training of these folks?
Gentleman 14.
The way the bill is written now, it gives the limited as concealed, enhanced concealed, but there's no reason why they cannot. And that would be absolutely up to the will of what the principal and the boards wants to do. So that's just the minimum. Can they make requirements? Because when they do that, then suddenly they shut it down. So you have to do this, and people can't achieve this. So we defeat the purpose, and no one can achieve what they say. We have to have this level, and that is law enforcement level. So then no one can carry. So that's kind of, we put that minimum and absolutely extend beyond that. But I could see that being the challenge. They'll shut it down.
Gentleman from
Follow
24.
up, Mr. Chair.
Gentleman yield for follow-up question.
Yes.
Gentleman
Okay.
yield.
So my question is, would this bill preclude the school district requiring training?
Good
Yes.
gentleman from 14.
Yes, it would preclude. It's not, the school board cannot mandate that. It's not required. It would be just recommended.
Thank you, gentlemen. Further debate on motion. Good lady from 11.
For a question of the good gentleman from 14, I tried to say it before he sat down.
Gentleman 14, yields question.
Yes.
Yields.
So, good gentleman, we passed a parental rights bill last year, and I'm wondering what effect this legislation might have. Would parents have the right to ask that their student either be with a teacher that is armed or not be with a teacher that is armed? And then what happens if there's a unequal number one way or another?
Gentleman 14.
The teacher does not have to provide that information. They can do that voluntarily. That is confidential and that is not required. So that's up between the parent and the teacher. They can offer that, but it is not required.
Follow up.
Gentleman, good lady from 11.
I know you were trying to understand what I asked, so I'm going to try one more, a little bit differently.
Gentleman yield, that's your question.
Yes.
Gentleman yield.
Be that as it may, if we pass this, then parents are going to know that there are teachers or custodians or school lunch ladies or whomever who are carrying, and what right do they have if they are not comfortable with their child being in a classroom or in a lunchroom or wherever it might require with a teacher who is armed?
Gentleman from 14.
The way that is, if they are unwilling to accept that, I guess they'll have to go to another school.
Good
To
lady
debate
from
the
11.
bill, please.
Lady has the floor to debate the bill.
So 32, you can, please. I mean, it's not my job to tell him he can sit down. I'm a school principal. I cannot stop
He's
myself.
been up quite a bit today.
I know, it's muscle memory. I apologize. Thank you, Speaker. 32 years in public schools as a teacher and as an administrator. Seen a lot of things come and go. And I would say specifically that one of the things that changed is that when we always had a crisis management team, and we always had mock drills that we did with law enforcement and with others, EMTs, the whole business, and they would run us through simulations. What if this and then that, to see what were the good things in our plan and what were things that we needed to think about. And not just for active shooters, but for all kinds of things that come through the school. That might be something we might want to think about, saying we would mandate that every school.
All right. Representative Yamamoto with some bizarre questioning here. I mean, I get it. You know, if you're like, oh, I don't want my kid in a classroom with a teacher with concealed carry. I mean, are these the same parents that don't let their kids go to Walmart or go out to a public park or anywhere else where half of the state is carrying firearms all around? I mean, these are ridiculous arguments. And she played her card there. She's 32 years in the school district. And we've been watching her a long time, and this is somebody who signed our pledge, wanting to uphold the values in our pledge, and she's in bad standing, and she fails miserably. And here she is standing up against a bill that would protect children in schools in the final scenario. I mean, Ted Hill stood up earlier and said this is all about the last resort. Okay? These teachers are not going to be on the front lines. They're not supposed to be law enforcement. It's just allowing a final protection. If there is an active shooter on campus who's going door to door, classroom to classroom, and the cops haven't arrived yet, or the security officers have already been taken out, this is a no-brainer. You just can't tell a society that they are not allowed to defend themselves and the people around them in the most dire moments. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. This bill should have full support from every single Republican on that floor. And yet we see these people pop up and not support this bill. And we're going to see the final vote, the final tally here. It's coming up soon. They're going to continue debate. We've come to near the end of the broadcast here, but it's been fascinating to listen to this, and I hope that you pay attention. And that's what we're trying to hear. That's what we're here to do. We want to make sure we're giving you unfiltered information straight from their mouths. Any number of our pledge signers and legislators are welcome to come onto this program and offer their perspectives on what's going on. So I appreciate you watching today. There's a lot more stuff to get into. 15 days since the budgets have passed in the committee. We're watching that. So we'll be back tomorrow. And follow us online on X and Facebook and YouTube, Rumble, all those places to make sure you're following the latest. IdahoSignal.com is where you can head over to get some support us. And I don't know, I'm a little miffed when I hear some of these arguments against this bill. It's absolutely incredible. Okay, thank you, everybody. I'll go get a haircut or something. We'll see you next time. Take care.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.